Clara Verne had always believed humans were never prey by nature, only by circumstance. But on the ragged mining world of Aster 8, circumstance ruled everything after sundown. The miners and settlers called them night teeth, slick-skinned apex predators, half reptile, half nightmare, with venom that paralyzed a grown man in seconds. By the time the corporate security force abandoned the outpost, the creatures had learned how easy human flesh bled in the dark. Now, the settlement's perimeter lights flickered more often than they stayed on, and entire families huddled in windowless basements, praying the generators held until dawn. But Clara was not the praying type. She watched them for weeks, the way they stalked around the fences, the ripple in the tall iron grass when they passed in packs. She'd served in a bio-warfare unit back during the border wars, tinkering with toxins nastier than any natural venom. When the first disappearances started, she petitioned the council for armed drones. They refused, too expensive, so she petitioned for more men. They refused, too dangerous. In the end, the only thing they did was give her permission to try whatever you think works, Miss Verne, at your own risk. And so she did. On the edge of the colony's dead zone, where the lights didn't reach, Clara stood alone under the bruised violet dusk. Her breath misted in the chill, but her heartbeat drummed warm and steady under her ribs. In her pocket, 3 vials rattled, her own cocktail of gene-shredding retrovirus, engineered from the very poison that had killed a dozen miners already. 1 dose for her bloodstream, 1 for a second bite. If they were stubborn, 1, just in case. The wind sighed through the grass. Beyond, shapes moved. The night teeth came silently as ghosts, glowing eyes flickering in and out of the gloom. She could almost feel the colony's last fence behind her, humming with the dying current. No backup, no fallback. One way or another, tonight ended the hunt. A low growl rose to her right, a slither of scales brushing stone. Her fingers clenched, nails digging into her palm. In training, they'd taught her never to show fear to a predator. Tonight, she needed them to smell her blood, not her terror. She took a single step forward, opened her arms. "Come on," she whispered into the dark. "I'm right here." Something lunged, a gleam of fangs. Then a searing slash of pain exploded through her forearm as rows of dagger teeth found flesh. Clara didn't scream. She forced herself to stand still as the venom burned up her veins like wildfire. Her vision doubled. Her knees threatened to fold. Somewhere beyond the fog, she heard the rustle, more predators gathering to watch their packmate feed. Good. Let them see. She focused her fading sight on the one latched to her arm, its hide pulsing as it fed. Inside her bloodstream, her custom retrovirus was already activating, rewriting the same venom that sought to kill her. It would kill something tonight, all right. Just not her. When the creature finally tore free, it staggered, jaws dripping crimson. Clara sank to her knees, clutching her arm, but her eyes never left its convulsing body. She needed the others to see what she had become. 1 predator down, 100 eyes watching. Let the lesson begin. The night teeth pack circled the clearing where Clara knelt in the tall iron grass, her breathing ragged but her mind razor sharp, despite the venom still sizzling under her skin. She locked eyes with the next creature that edged forward, larger than the first, scales glittering like wet obsidian beneath the fractured moonlight. It sniffed the air, nostrils flaring at the copper tang of her blood, and the acrid death reek rising from its fallen kin. The first predator's body twitched, limbs spasming in the dirt, veins blackened, flesh splitting open in places where her engineered virus devoured its insides faster than the venom could do its work on her. Clara forced herself to stay upright. She wanted them to see her not just alive, but unbroken. She whispered hoarsely into the night, voice cracking through the pain. "Look at me. Look at what your bite brings you now." The creature snarled, lips peeling back over jagged teeth. 1 step, 2 steps. It lowered its massive head to sniff its dead packmate and recoiled as if struck, hissing at the stench of spoiled flesh. The others watched. Dozens of eyes blinked open in the shadows, shifting between the dying human and the unthinkable sight of one of their own slain by prey. Their instincts warred with their hunger. For generations these humans had been meat. Now the meat poisoned their strongest hunter in seconds. Clara's arm throbbed where teeth had torn muscle. She could feel her heartbeat fighting the venom, the virus tearing it apart cell by cell. The edges of her vision dimmed, but she welcomed it. The more dramatic her collapse looked, the deeper the lesson would carve itself into every predator mind within earshot. The big one reared back, rumbling a low, confused growl. It bared its teeth, then paused. The wind shifted, carrying the rank chemical odor of their brother's rotting carcass straight into its sensitive nostrils. Clara forced a cruel smile. "Do it, beast. Try me." But the brute didn't. Instead, with a snort that shook droplets of warm spittle across her face, it turned sharply and bounded back into the tall grass. The others twitched, restless, agitated by the abrupt retreat. One by one they followed. She counted their retreating shapes, 5, 10, then more, vanishing back into the darkness they had once ruled unchallenged. For the first time in weeks, silence settled over the dead zone. Only the faint hum of distant fence relays and Clara's ragged breathing broke the quiet. She toppled onto her back in the cold dirt, staring at a sky too full of stars to care about a lone woman's gamble. Her blood was on fire, but her mind was clear. She had done it. She had shown them the cost. Tomorrow they would remember the taste that killed. Somewhere in the haze, footsteps crunched close, boots, not claws. A lantern's glow cut through the grass. A voice cursed softly, then barked over a comm. "Found her. She's alive. Get the med sled, now." Rough hands lifted her gently. Faces hovered above her, blurred by exhaustion. Clara wanted to laugh but couldn't. Instead, her eyes drifted back to where the dead night-tooth lay stiffening in the moonlight. 1 bite for her, 1,000 memories for them. Tomorrow she'd be ready for the rest. By the time Clara's eyelids fluttered open, dawn had clawed a pale gold line across Aster 8's endless plains. Her body ached in places she didn't know could hurt. Her arm was a maze of crude stitches and bioskin patches, but the constant fire of the venom was gone, replaced by a bone-deep weariness that only meant one thing. She'd survived her own trap. The council medic, a lean old man named Harrow, fussed over her as if she were a fragile child. She tolerated it because the alternative was arguing, and her voice felt like a nest of broken glass. 3 days, he muttered, checking the drips feeding antibiotics and mild narcotics into her veins. "You've been out 3 days, Vern. Any longer and I'd have called the Undertaker." She forced a ghost of a grin. "Then you'd owe me hazard pay." Harrow snorted. "And ruin my pension. Not likely." But beyond Harrow's worried scowl, Clara saw the thing she'd hoped for most. The monitor screen over her bed showed footage from the perimeter. Night teeth, dozens of them, stalking the fences, and yet none of them crossed into the colony's dim halo of light. They circled, they sniffed, and they vanished back into the wild the moment a human shape approached. Word had spread. Nature's perfect predator had learned to fear a single human's blood. She sat up too fast. Pain stabbed behind her eyes, but she ignored it. "Open the lab feeds," she rasped. Harrow hesitated, but flicked his wrist console. A second screen bloomed to life, showing live streams from the old biosciences dome where Clara had run her toxin tests. Inside, rows of sealed vials of her retrovirus sat ready. Automated drone arms were already filling darts, lining them into crates marked for shipment. A knock rapped sharply on the glass wall. Captain Rourke, security chief turned reluctant ally, stood there in full exo armor. He didn't wait for an invite, just barged in, helmet tucked under his arm. "Vern, you've made yourself famous." "Not the goal," she rasped. "Too late. Every outpost within radio range wants your bite-back serum. Some want you too, to prove it works." She laughed and it hurt, but it felt good. "Let 'em come, or send 'em a sample. 1 bite saves 20 men. That's the math." Rourke's face softened, the hard lines of soldiers' worry cracking to show a flicker of admiration. "You did more than save a patrol. The entire species out there knows now. We aren't prey. We're poison." She swung her legs off the cot, ignoring Harrow's protests. Her feet hit cold steel. She swayed but didn't fall. "I'm not done," she said. "One lesson's not enough. Predators adapt. So do we. I want drone hives carrying the serum, auto-injectors on patrol routes, and an armed team ready to cull any pack that forgets." Harrow groaned. Rourke grinned. "Already drafted the plan. But there's a problem." She raised an eyebrow. "The pack alpha, bigger than the one that bit you. Smarter too, we think. It didn't come near the fence yet. It's watching, waiting." Clara felt the weight settle into her bones. One predator killed. Many turned back. But the worst one, the mind behind the pack's hunger, was still out there, testing the edges of her victory. "Then we show it what happens when you hunt humans," she said, voice flat as a gun barrel. Rourke nodded. "When you're fit to stand, we'll track it. Finish this for good." She glanced at the sunrise outside, washing the scrub land in soft gold. The monster was still waiting out there, but so was she. Let it come. By dusk, Clara was standing on her own 2 feet, wrapped in a fresh armored jacket that hid the healing scar on her arm, the badge of the bite that changed everything. Her breath fogged in the cold wind sweeping the grass plains, but her pulse was steady, her eyes sharper than ever. Behind her, a squad of rangers and techs readied drones, tranquilizer rifles, and sensor beacons. She felt their eyes on her, half concern, half awe. Not long ago she'd been one more desperate colonist with a mad plan. Now she was living proof that humans could rewrite nature's rules. Rourke paced beside her, helmet locked in place, exo armor humming with power. "Alpha's been spotted West Ridge," he said over the comm. "Scouts say it's bigger than the rest. Smarter, too. It didn't touch any bait. It's waiting for you." Clara cracked her neck, rolling her stiff shoulders. "Good. Let's not disappoint him." They moved like ghosts through the dusk, infrared drones flitting ahead, scanning the grassland for heat signatures. The pack's lesser kin had scattered. The older predators were smart enough to remember the cost of her blood. But the alpha was different. A beast forged by survival, evolution, and a taste for the only prey that ever fought back. When they found it, it was waiting, perched on an outcrop of stone, its silhouette huge against the dying sun. Ragged scars scored its flanks. Its eyes gleamed with a cold, calculating hunger. This was no mindless predator. This was a ruler, an executioner of the plains. and Clara had come to end its reign. She stepped forward alone, dropping her rifle in the grass. The squad hissed protests over the comm, but Rourke silenced them with a hand signal. She wanted the Alpha to see her as it always had. Meet, challenge, threat. She wanted it close enough to see her eyes when it died. It growled low, a rumble that vibrated through her ribs. Then it leapt. She braced, pivoted sideways at the last second. Its claws grazed her shoulder, tearing armor and skin alike. Pain flashed red behind her eyes, but she welcomed it. She jammed her injector blade into its flank as it slammed her down. The Alpha roared, a sound like thunder splitting the plains. Its teeth snapped for her throat, but the virus was already flooding its veins. It stumbled, jaws slackening, eyes rolling white with agony. Clara shoved herself free, gasping through the taste of blood and dirt. She forced herself to stand tall as the Alpha staggered and dropped to its side, convulsing. Around them, smaller shadows, its lingering followers, watched from the rocks, frozen in primal disbelief. She spat in the dust, every muscle trembling. This is human ground now. Rourke's squad rushed forward, securing the twitching carcass and scanning the hills for stragglers. None dared approach. Under the stars that rose like fresh embers overhead, the grasslands fell silent. No more howls, no more fear in human eyes. The predators had learned. Humans did not run, they did not bow, they bit back. Rourke clapped a gauntleted hand on her shoulder, careful of her wounds. "You're going to be a legend for this, Vern." She huffed a ragged laugh. "Just make sure they remember why. One bite, one lesson. We're not food." He nodded. Drones buzzed overhead, carrying the word far beyond this battlefield. Humans were not prey, they were the new apex. Somewhere in the darkness, Clara knew other eyes were watching. Other teeth still waited to test them. But that was tomorrow's hunt. Tonight, they were free.